Hi, I'm Yaena Kwon and welcome to a special feature on Warwick TV. Sometimes you might know this feeling. One single phone call can change emotions radically. A few years ago, Maureen Freely, professor of writing here at Warwick, picked up the phone in her office, and it was the Turkish writer Orhan Pamuk, her longtime friend whose work she had translated. He was awarded the Nobel Prize, he told her, and he won it in 2006. Maureen was raised in Istanbul after her parents had left the United States in the 1950s, and it was back then when she got to know Orhan Pamuk. More than any other place, Turkey is her home, and as she's very familiar with the culture and the language, she's able to provide a translation not only accurate in terms of grammar and structure, but a translation which mirrors the spirit of the country expressed through Pamuk's literary mind. Maureen works as a journalist as well, writing for The Guardian and The Independent, and she is a novelist. In 2000, for example, her book The Other Rebecca got published, a contemporary version of Daphne du Maurier's classic novel. Her latest novel, Enlightenment, deals with a description of Istanbul's relationship to America in the 1970s and today, experienced by young Turkish people who are suddenly forced to deal with Turkey's troubled human rights. It is a novel about rewriting Turkey's past and how truth can make a stand. I'm very glad that I had the chance to talk to Maureen Freely here on Warwick campus about her translations of Pamuk's novels and, of course, about her own fiction. Maureen, you're well known as the translator of the Nobel-Prize-winner Orhan Pamuk's novels, including Snow and Istanbul, Memories and the City. Tell me, what were the greatest challenges when you had to translate his texts into English?
It's very, very difficult to create a graceful sentence out of, in English that was a graceful sentence in Turkish. That's one area of difficulty. Another is that literary writers in Turkey use very, very long sentences, and it's partly because the language was ethnically cleansed at the founding of the Republic in the 20s and 30s. And through this process it lost 60% of its vocabulary. So the area of artistry for Turkish writers is in the grammar and the games that you can play with associative clauses and so on. Very, very difficult for us Anglo-Saxons or people with Anglo-Saxon minds, like things in a straight arrow road. And they want to know who did what, when, why, and where, and they'll get lost in these beautiful but deliberately confusing associative sentences. So how to do it. And I suppose my own other area of nervousness was that I'm not a professional translator. I am a novelist, and I'm a journalist and teach writing, live in the word, and so on. But I didn't set out to become a translator. And if I had, I would have made sure to do a lot of get some training. So at the beginning, when Orhan, who was a personal friend, asked me to help him, I said, look, there are going to be holes in my Turkish. And he said, don't worry, we can work on that, as long as you don't mind me catching out mistakes, we can always correct those. And he did show me a number of other efforts, people who were asking to translate him. And when I looked at those, I realized that there were lots of things that I could do with the English, not just with getting the sentences graceful, but bringing the insights of a novelist into the process, so that as a novelist I wanted the voice to be right, I wanted the tone to be right, I wanted to create a narrative trance and do whatever I could to recreate the trance that I found in the Turkish.
Your most recent novel is Enlightenment, and it's basically set in contemporary and Cold War Turkey, and it's a story about the American writer, journalist Miss M, it's her name, and she grew up in Turkey, went back to America, and she comes back to Istanbul in 2005 to start her investigation on a very mysterious case. And it's the case about Jeannie Wakefield's husband, who was Miss M's lover as well, so very intertwined. And he is detained and sent to Guantanamo. So basically it's very much a psychological thriller, but at the same time it has quite a lot of autobiographical traits as well. So how much of you, Maureen, lies in Miss M?
Well, I would say that almost everything that happens in Enlightenment happened to somebody, if not to me, then to somebody else, and that was deliberate. I actually wanted to write this book as nonfiction in the beginning, because at the center of it is, at the center of the novel is a political murder that a number of young people who are friends of M's get implicated in. But there was a real murder that was somewhat like that. I mean, I fictionalized it. Anyway, I had known a lot of people who were implicated in it. We were all haunted by this story because it was the first time people our age, from our place, got drawn into something really, really big and really, really ugly. And we just couldn't understand what happened, but it was kind of our introduction to adulthood and politics and so on. And the people that I knew who were involved in it actually got out of prison and carried on with their lives and thrived and worked with people who turned them in. And I simply could not understand how this could be. I admired these people, but I could not understand it, and they would not talk. At the time that I was trying to write the nonfiction book, I thought that Turkey had opened up and democratized enough so that people could tell the story. And I was looking for a story of heroism. Well, it quickly became clear that if I carried on with my inquiries, somebody would die. I mean, it was clearly something that was under the surface that people were very uncomfortable with. And so, having lost a few friends, just by asking innocent questions, I decided that this was not an area for nonfiction, and that really what I wanted to understand was something more about my life than theirs. How could this paradise that I'd grown up in turn into this place where bombs were being thrown around? So that's the kind of question that is possible to look at in fiction. And as I started looking into it, this is a book that took me quite a few years to write, I realized that I had grown up inside a thriller without knowing it. For us, it was kind of normal. There were, on this hill overlooking the Bosphorus, where this American university was with all of its bohemian faculty and families, there were lots and lots of what you might call cold warriors. People either worked for the consulate or worked for the intelligence services. We had also the presence of the Turkish intelligence service and also the KGB, and they were all spying on each other over our heads, and all the children were going to the same schools. So it was a very, 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 very strange place, which we thought of as normal. And of course, having realized that I'd grown up in a thriller of types, or in kind of the domain of a thriller, what interested me most was not what the fathers were doing. I had no idea what they were really doing. I knew what kind of bourbon they drank when they went home. I knew what kind of binoculars they had. I knew how their marriages broke up. I was really interested in what happens to the families, the women and children, and what they carry with them.